Today we have the pleasure of presenting the Charles G. Pfeiffer Award for 2024. The award is open to society members and non-members alike, but this year's award is again given to a society member. So for the last 12 years in a row, our members and directors reaffirm the belief that our own Zane Grey West Society members remain the foremost Zane Grey scholars in the world today. That's something of which we can all be justifiably proud. Those of us who knew Chuck will remember him for his snow-white beard, his ready smile, and for his encyclopedic knowledge of Zane Grey and his work. He was also a Sunday school teacher, a camper van builder, an American geographer, a photographer, a beloved professor, a writer and researcher, especially Grey's deserts and mountains, a sharer of information, and a gentle man. As some of you know, it was when he served as chaplain aboard the Navy's USS Ranger that he first encountered Zane Grey. As chaplain, he also served as ship's librarian, and when the captain asked for a book one evening, Chuck happened to pull a Zane Grey novel from the shelf. But he thought he should check out the book himself before giving it to the CO, and that brief look began Chuck's Zane Grey adventure. 6 days and 400,000 miles later, many of us either knew him well, or if we were newcomers, were just getting to know him. But we learned quickly that whenever we looked for him during our annual conventions, all we had to do was to find the largest crowd, and he would be there at the center of it. Questions flew at him from all corners, and amazingly, he answered every one. No one can remember a time or a question about Grey that Chuck couldn't answer. Even co-founder Joe often deferred to him. He was just phenomenal. The Charles G. Pfeiffer Award is the Society's most prestigious and most important award. Its purpose is to remind us of our friend Chuck for all he was, but especially for his high standards in research and writing, and for his willingness to share with anyone and everyone whatever he knew about Zane Grey, and for his encouragement to others to do the same. The award was created in 2011 to be given biennially to that person, whether a society member or not, who exhibits the highest standards of research and writing on any aspect of Grey's life or work. Our 2020 awardee has lived with Zane Grey for at least the last quarter century, is a researcher both in library and high desert, is an author of articles for the Review and Explorer and other publications, and is a proven expert on what is one of Grey's most important historical romances, and like Chuck, has regularly shared what he has discovered about Grey with all of us. So, for his 2 decades-long continuing research into the characters and locations of Vanishing American, we are pleased to present Henry Nardi as recipient of the 2024 Charles G. Pfeiffer Award. Henry began his interest in research on this excellent book and its heroic characters in 2001. In the intervening years, he has spent days and weeks on the Navajo reservation, has interviewed numerous tribal residents and potential family members, and has written 21 articles for the Review and Explorer. He has provided textual and content proof of 3 different published endings to Grey's original manuscript, and his research has convinced many that Grey's model for Nofi was a Navajo man named George Bancroft. Henry's work provides further evidence that Zane Grey's work was directly reflective of history and actual events on the American Western frontier, especially the fate of our first Americans. We are confident that Chuck himself would approve of the award to Henry Nardi, and so our congratulations to friend and fellow traveler, Henry Nardi, our good friend.
You can. Can we give you his hand?
Oh, we may have to have one of our Florida members, Alan, drive it across the state to Tampa. I guess he's still in Tampa, St. Pete. Okay, all right, here you go.
Yes, the Charles Pfeiffer Award was established in 2012 to honor those members who have done significant research on the geography of Zane Grey, and in fact, just significant research at all. First recipient was Kevin Blake at 2012 in Spearfish, South Dakota. We have three winners here with us tonight: Alan, Ed, and Harvey. So we have three winners of this. It's the most prestigious award that the society gives. And we wanted to give it to Henry, pardon me. And Henry didn't join us last year. He's not with us this year. So we decided we can't wait any longer. We need to award it. We'll announce it and we'll ship it to Henry and tell him he really missed a great ceremony. Talk about your dad.
Oh,
You did this before, but do it again.
the same thing I said before?
Yep, that's so good, do it again.
I've already told y'all this, but as I said, Daddy was in World War II, was a chaplain on an aircraft carrier, and as the chaplain, he was responsible for maintaining the ship's library, which is actually the captain's library, or the admiral, captain. No. Anyhow, so every time we went to port, Daddy would have to go in and look at all the bookstores and try to find paperbacks, and what the captain really wanted was westerns. So Daddy would buy every western he could find and bring it in and stick it, in the library. And one day, he was looking at the books and wondering, if they were any good. And Desert Wheat, I won't say the right thing, I called it the wrong thing last time. Anyhow, he picked up, that was one of the ones he just gotten, Desert Wheat. And he was like, I wonder if this Zane Grey person, who is he? Does he know anything about, what he's writing about? And he started flipping through it, and he was seeing the descriptions of the wheat waving in the wind and all this. He was like, hey, this is really accurate. This is because Daddy was from Nebraska. And it made him homesick too. So he started picking up the Zane Grey books and reading them and became just really enamored of Zane Grey. I think a lot was because he was from Nebraska and he was homesick, but also he really, really enjoyed the geography, and it just grew and grew until, as you know, he was a professor, and so he had his 3 months off every summer, and so he would use those to go and research the geography of Zane Grey, and he would say, well, this summer I'm gonna go do the Arizona books, or this summer I'm gonna go do the Utah books, or whatever. And he would take the little stack of books and all his maps, and he'd go and, if it said that this guy was on his horse and he rode out on the top of the mesa and he looked out and he saw this mountain in the distance, Daddy would go ride out on his Volkswagen on all these mesas and look for the thing in the distance. And Mom and I got to go with him a number of times, and I remember specifically looking for Majesty's Rancho and looking for the wide valley and the, ranch house up there on kind of the hillside. And one of the books we looked for, I don't know what the title of the book was, but the heroine came by train and she got off the train in the town square. And so we had to find this town and the town square of this some unknown town so we could find this is where, and we actually did find the train tracks of wherever it was. So
Light of Western Stars. That's what I was gonna say.
Light of
Western
Stars. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds right, because that's one of the Majesty ones, isn't it? There were a couple before.
That was the first in that.
Okay, because that's,
Majesty's was the second.
for some reason, those are the ones I really remember, and one year we went to Uvalde, which was really neat, and which I found out later, Matthew McConaughey is from Uvalde, which is kind of neat. And then I felt really bad when they had the school shooting, because I was like, I've been there. But it was just a lot of fun, and it gave purpose to our travels more than just saying, oh, isn't this nice? This is pretty. This is nice. Because we were searching for something. It was like a detective story. It's like, oh, we've got to find this. And it was a lot of fun. I remember we found Horsehead Crossing, and I don't know what book that was from, but Mama would read the books. Daddy would say, here are the books we're supposed to read. Mama would read one of them. I would read maybe first few pages. But Daddy would tell me what we were supposed to look for and show me him. So that was a long explanation. But as you all know, this was this huge hobby and just love of his life was doing this, besides Mom and me. And he eventually wrote up not only the geography, but pretty much everything else in the world about Zane Grey, except for the women. But anyhow, I digress. I didn't take a nap today, so. But anyhow, so this Zane Grey Award was created the Charles Pfeiffer Award. Boy, I'm really misspeaking. Anyhow, to honor, well, in memory, I guess, of Daddy and the research he did, but the people who received the award have to have done research. They can't just write a book. You know, it has to be that they've really gone and researched this topic and found new information or found more in-depth information, and it's important, it has to be shared. It can't just be something where they're making a profit or it's something kept to themselves. They have to share it with other people, make it available. That was another thing that was really important for Daddy. So anyhow, I guess that's enough. I can keep going. I was a park ranger, you know, I can talk forever.
So for Henry, we're honoring him because of all of his work he's done on Vanishing American. And it's just amazing to me. We get emails from Henry giving us assignments. You know, I need you to go do this for me. You go do this. Well, it just keeps coming, right, Harvey?
That's right.
And he also has no fear at all about contacting somebody he's never talked to, never heard of, and email going to somebody. And the contacts he's come up with and the research he's done has just been phenomenal. So, Henry, when you see this, well deserved.
I should add that my most recent email from Henry came this morning about 6 a.m. It was another Vanishing American, something he had uncovered, and he was so excited about it. So
Get a little closer. Camera's not that good. Yeah, there we go. Cool.
Thank you.
thank you.
Good evening, everyone. This is Roseanne Rutschman. I am the president of Zane Grey West Society. And the reason we call this Zoom meeting today was to announce the winner of the 2024 Charles Pfeiffer Award for academic excellence in research and writing on the life, lore, and legend of Zane Grey. I have to read that because I get lost if I don't. The winner of this award in 2024 was Henry Nardi, our good friend and longtime member of the Society. We actually planned to award this to him in Lone Pine at our convention in 2024, but he wasn't there. So we said, okay, well, we will wait until 2025 and award it to him at our convention in Riggins, Idaho, but he wasn't there. So we decided that rather than wait, we wanted to memorialize this. We have sent him the award and he has accepted it very graciously. And we wanted to invite him to say a few words in response to the award.
Okay, well, first of all, I hope I'm going to see you in Wheeling, West Virginia for
I
the
hope so.
your Ohio trilogy updates. That'll be great. And this is about Chuck. As I said in a little note that I sent you a week or so ago, which I think Alan's going to publish in the review, and I will go through that sort of thing and a few little updates that I've been looking for. Basically, I got to know Chuck in the late 90s, and when I was doing work for the National Park Service, getting that thing going with the January Zane Grey days, which turned into the July days with Zan Irwin and company. And so I started to get to know Chuck, and in about 2000, in the convention, I think for Cody, that's when we started talking about more things about the Vanishing American, because the former president of the Zane Grey Society, Charles Pfeiffer, gave me the 6 editions of the Ladies' Home Journal. He sent them to me around 2000. They're beautiful, and I'm going to show them to you in the other room. And Terry has a copy of all the pages of them and has been struggling with them, I'm sure. But anyway, we would talk. But the interesting thing I just discovered last night when I went through my external drive, I found a 19-page essay that I was writing for Carolyn Timmerman in the Zane Grey Review about the connection between, on the way to Cody, stopping in the Crazy Horse Memorial, and that gave me something to talk to Chuck about in linking up Crazy Horse and Nofi. Now that connection really excited Chuck, because as you know, Chuck was born a few miles south of where Crazy Horse is apparently buried somewhere that people haven't identified in when Crazy Horse was killed at Fort Robinson. So, Chuck really got me interested in Crazy Horse as well as the Vanishing American. So that relationship continued with Chuck, and I visited him several times, particularly when I started coming down to Florida. I could stop off in South Carolina and visit him at his home and his really packed full room of notes and things. I mean, he kept all these handwritten notes and files, and Terry has probably seen them. And I wonder, I guess maybe maybe they're with BYU. I don't know, but he certainly had a lot. And, he had a lot of details. And in fact, in those early years, in the late 90s, when I was in Milford, I started talking about Zane Grey and his vital American values. Well, then lo and behold, Terry, you and Chuck published his book about values beyond the West, and so that continued the saga with Chuck so many times, and he was just, yeah, as everybody knows, but there's so many members of the Zane Grey Society that probably have never met him or heard him, and certainly didn't have a lot of time to talk with him. But he was such a gentleman, talking to everybody about anything they want to talk about. Even guys like me who didn't really know much, he would be very patient and listen to my theories. But then when we hit the Vanishing American, that's when he got very interested, because I pointed out to him and Lauren the passage in the 1982 edition about Nofi's realization of Christianity, but not becoming converted to Christianity, but realization of it. So that was a key phrase in the 1982 edition. So Chuck and I continued talking about that. And as you know, for him, being a Methodist minister, the religious aspect was always high up there. And he's got that long section in his book on values about the Vanishing American and a lot of details about it. So we had many years of talking about it, and also with Lauren. And we were both amazed that Lauren hadn't realized that particular passage on page 302 of the 1925 edition and 319 of the 1982 edition had changed. Lauren didn't notice it, but so that was an interesting thing to talk to Lauren about, and he gave me some of a background, Lauren gave me a lot of background, and I also think you have, Lauren, that video I did of Lauren when he came to Milford in 2000, won for the showing of The Vanishing American. And he gave a long talk about his early days in Lackawax. And so I hope you're saving that. If you don't have it, I'll try to resend it to you. But that's a interesting aside about Lauren and Chuck and that. But then, talking with Chuck, as I said in my notes, we used his little books, various travel books, as you know, that you guys republished again. But when I would come out to the convention and drag Catherine and the girls along, I would have his little books with me, and we would go try to find the places that he found. So that's how I found the site of uh, at Doan's River Crossing and Pecos River Crossing and places like that. I wouldn't have found them without Chuck's book, because he was very explicit. He gave directions about what highway to turn on and where you could find something, and then I would try to explore that. And even when I did the thing in Colotis, Washington in 2001, I think, 2002, I think it was, I even called Chuck on the phone when I got to Colotis, Washington, and told him I was in Colotis. And of course, we chit-chatted about that book. And but he was always so very kind and generous. And I hope that a lot of other members of the society who didn't know him will really appreciate him. And especially, maybe you ought to republish that book on his book on values someday to make sure other members of the society can get it, because you can't find a more detailed account than you find in that. And as I say, that thing of values, that's in the late 1990s. I even used that phrase, and when I was discussing Zane Grey, I called them vital American values, which is basically what Chuck was always talking about. So then a lot of trips, and then I started going to Arizona, and I went to, started off blindly, not knowing where to go, and went to Window Rock and then to Chinle and finally got up to Tuba City. And there, with a clue from around 2013 from um, uh, Harvey Leak, who really, I mean, he and I got going wild on it, and he started giving me information, and then he introduced me to the Tatty Tin aspect of the story, which I had, but I didn't notice. But then after 2013, I happened to meet some Navajos there, and I met some of the great grandchildren of George Bancroft, one of the inspirations for Nofi. In fact, ironically, last night, one of his great granddaughters called me on the phone, because she calls me occasionally from Tuba City to talk about various things. And I don't know, she knew Catherine was sick this summer, so she's called me a couple of times about that, because we met her with Catherine and Anjali and Ryan and their family, not last April, but the year before April. We met them in Tuba City and had a nice session with them in the restaurant right across the street from the new Bureau of Indian Affairs school, where the other fellow Navajo I know is still the assistant principal there, and we're still in touch. So I really got involved in all that because of Chuck, and because of Chuck's, and that's what I want to emphasize. More people should read his little books, because they get you going about these sites and the locations, and then you can read the book and see how Zane Grey, in his books, one of the main protagonists, of course, was the geography, not just the people, not just the historical romance, but the geography. And of course, that was so essential for people in from 1912 on, from Riders of the Purple Sage, when people only had magazines to read. And so that's how they got their view of the American West. And I was happy to join Chuck in exploring all that stuff. And so it's been a long journey, and I say it was really helped out with Harvey and trips to the National Archives in Washington, D.C. I made two big long trips there, and another trip out to the National Archives in Riverside, California, where I also visited the Indian Industrial School there. And of course, I met a Navajo lady who was one of the teachers. So I got to know her too and find out a little bit about her background. And but all these things were serendipitous. They just happen. And I used Chuck's method of, like, when I went to Colotus, I I just happened to go into a town and I mentioned to somebody in the town, oh, I'm interested in this Zane Grey book, uh, The Desert of Wheat, that took place a little ways away from here in Colotus, Washington. And one of the people there, and it was in the mayor's office, actually, a small town. And they said, oh, well, so and so, this lady, she knows a lot about that. She's only been here for 40 years, but she knows a lot about that town. So I talked to her, and then I went to Colotus, and I found the location of the characters in that story, The Desert of Wheat, based upon a German immigrant family, and the German father was selling wheat to the Germans during World War One, and his son went off to fight in World War One and come back as a wounded veteran. And of course, that was another one of Zane Grey's maybe half a dozen novels about World War One veterans, which was also in The Vanishing American, which is so unique because it's got World War One and it's got the pandemic, which is so interesting because we went through a likewise pandemic, and the Navajos in 1917 and 1918 suffered tremendously, as well as in this recent COVID vaccine. In fact, when I went out there right afterwards, you had to wear masks, you had to get permission to go here and there. So it was a very tense time for the Navajos then, too. So again, I end, I guess, with my little note that I sent you that I think Alan will probably get published. And that tells a little bit about the background, and you got more of the background here. And it's basically Chuck's book, A Study in Values, that I really want to emphasize to everybody. Of course, I don't have to emphasize it to you because Terry, you probably know more about it because you probably sweated through the editing of that book for X number of years. I don't know how many, but you can tell us at some point. So I'm really happy that you're including me in the memory of Chuck. And as I say, also, I sent you that photograph with the Navajos in Tuba City that we mentioned, and the one woman there, her name was Laura Dash. She's the great granddaughter of Homer Bancroft, who was a son of Nofi and the Bancroft clan. His name actually was Nez, Nez. I think we're losing this, are we? No, there we go. Well, she's there in the end next to Ryan in the red hat, and across from her is Tim Clushin, the assistant principal that I met in around 2013 or 14. And I've been in touch with on the email every now and then and hope to see again. And then you see in the foreground, I've got two real Indian origin girls, uh, Anjali and Priyanka, and then her daughters, Cosette next to Anjali and yeah, and Charlotte next to Catherine over there. So we had a great time, and that is the restaurant there next to the Navajo Hotel now. It's got a Navajo Nation Hotel named to it now. And right across the street is the BIA school, the new one. And then when you go there, you got to go behind that because behind that is the old school. And in that old school, that fellow on the left there, Tim, showed me some of the files that they have back there, the old pictures of that school at the same time of when Zane Grey wrote the story and Zane Grey passed through there. So Harvey and I, as you know, are still involved. Harvey a lot more than me on the Tatty Tin story. And we're waiting to hear from the Tatty Tin relatives about whether or not they're going to produce a second video for which they interviewed Harvey and me last year in Arizona. And they interviewed us for about 4 or 5 hours each in 2 different locations. And as they say, the director put that film in the can and it's somewhere undisclosed. We hope someday it will appear because Harvey gave a lot of helpful information about his relatives. Oh, and there I am with the clan here in St. Petersburg, and soon Anjali and her husband and daughters are going to be moving to Huntsville, Alabama. And they're getting a big house, and they're thinking that we're going to be visiting them or staying with them a great deal of the time. So we'll see how that works out. So that's about the end of the story. Now, I hope you two, and sitting there so patiently, can ask me some questions that I omitted or should have mentioned and might remember. I don't know. Come on.
So today we had we've done this video because we wanted to memorialize the award. We wanted to talk about Chuck, and we also wanted to thank Henry Nardi, along with, of course, Harvey Leak and all the other people, including our Navajo friends who have been doing so much to reveal the real story behind the Vanishing American. One of the things I can say about Chuck and Henry is that no matter who needed what, they were always at the ready to share whatever they had learned and to provide information and to improve our research on all these matters. The things that they learned, they were more than willing to share with everyone else. And that was a hallmark, I think, of Chuck's work. And I can say the same about Henry. So he taught you well.
Yeah, I picked up a little bit along the way. I mean, he is a great teacher.
He was a great teacher. Yeah. And we miss him a great deal, him and Lella also. Just so you know, when at the convention, when Terry and Todd were talking about the geography aspects in one of their talks, I asked Rosanna to come up. We mentioned Chuck several times, and I realized we had 8 people there who had never met Chuck, at least 8 brand new people who were not familiar. So I asked her to come up. For those who don't know, Chuck's daughter, Rosanna Pfeiffer, was there. And so I asked her to come up and just talk a little bit about Chuck. You could talk all day about Chuck. That is a fact.
You certainly could.
Yeah.
He was a great
And
person.
all of his research and all of the things he did, not just about Vanishing American, but about so many of the other books as well. The places he went, I think it enlightened him, it enlightened us, and it enriched all of our lives. And so we were honored, I believe it was 2011, to create the Chuck Pfeiffer Award in Williamsburg at our convention there. We have memorialized that as well. But I think he was surprised, and he was always so modest about everything.
He was, but
Absolutely.
what a great person.
You
Yeah.
mentioned he was a gentleman. That's the word that everybody uses when
No
they
doubt
talk
about
about.
it. I went to his funeral, and that was beautiful, really beautiful ceremony in the church. Now, while you guys continue a little bit, I'm going to go in the other room and show you
But
my other.
well, before you do that, let's point out
Oh,
real quickly, right behind Henry, to the right of him is the Pfeiffer Award, sitting up there behind him.
oh yeah, it's right there where my hand is pointing.
Yep.
And
And
then
then to
on
the other
that
side,
side is the Riders of the Purple Sage, next to the photograph of Priyanka riding in Monument Valley on those days. Because, I used to drag Catherine and Anjali and Priyanka on all those trips. Uh, I mean, we even tent camped, but I can tell you that Catherine and Anjali didn't go for the tent camping. Priyanka was a big camper with me. In fact, she camped with me on the Rogue River when we did that little hike. Now I'm going to go in the other room while you guys chit chat.
well, while we're waiting for Henry to go to the other room real quick, we also have Alan Pratt on the call with us. Alan is a former awardee of the Pfeiffer Award as well.
Yeah, now I'm in the other room.
Uh-huh.
Can you see me in the other room?
No, you're too far down. You need to
Oh,
move
okay. I got to get it down. How's
There
that?
you go. Okay.
I don't see my own picture here.
Okay, that's good right there.
We figured out.
Okay. Well, as you can see over here, those are the six issues of the Vanishing American that Charles Cecil gave me, along with the poster and one of my original 1990s talks on Zane Grey values in Chuck's books. And then over there on that pillow is recently that woman I mentioned to you, Laura Dash, this great granddaughter of Nofi and his son Homer. She knitted that for Catherine about the time Catherine went in the hospital this summer. So that was, and as you can see, that design is some kind of Navajo inspiration. I'm not sure what
Can
it
you
is,
move,
but
Henry, can you move the
I have
camera
to
to
ask
show
her.
us
But
that? We can't
I
see.
don't see myself on this. I'm going to try to get myself in here. Let
No,
me
that's all
see.
right. That's all right.
Well, it doesn't matter. You can see me, all
Yep,
right?
we can see you and see the
Okay.
magazines, and
So
we're good.
anyway, that's sort of the end of the story. And
Well,
again, I really would say we have a lot to continue to be thankful for Chuck. And the only thing I can say is get more copies of his book published out there in the hands of the public, because I don't think anybody could ever do so much as that. And that's when, in fact, I think I sent you photographs earlier at 2005 when that book came out, and you dedicated the Zane Grey cabin in Payson. And I included in there a few pictures of where the original cabin site was supposed to be. But that was a great time to be with Chuck and learn more. And I continually learn more. And it was soon after that Lauren and John Tuska, who was republishing some of the Zane Grey material with deleted material, they decided, oh, we can't republish The Vanishing American because Lauren did it in 1982, and John Tuska was a sort of raspy kind of guy. He didn't want to do it either. So they decided they wouldn't do it. And now, of course, we can look forward to Terry's hard work on the original version, which is going to be fabulous. And I hope
Yeah,
we
I
hear
can.
more about that soon, Terry.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick update on that. I'm actually expecting first copy, proof copies of that this next week. So we almost have the book ready to go, and so we'll be doing proofreading on it, and then it'll be ready before the end of the year. So Henry, at this point, I'd like to just say myself the congratulations on the award, and it was truly
Okay, I
well
got to raise
deserved.
that volume on this. I can't hear you too well, but anyway, it doesn't matter. I guess I'll hear later.
Okay, well, I just want to again congratulate you. It was well deserved. Alan, do you want to say anything real quick?
Let
Yeah,
me see. Let me
Henry,
see where the volume is on this thing, where I can increase it. The audio.
yes, Henry, well deserved. Congratulations.
And then we'll let Roseanne close it out.
I
I'm making one point.
did the wrong thing there.
I never
Well,
had a
anyway, for some reason I'm not finding it. Maybe it's on my computer. Uh,
Go ahead. You were going to say something?
I just said I never had a
yeah,
chance.
you guys go ahead.
I never had a chance to meet Chuck Pfeiffer, and I wish I would have. His book has been very valuable to me in terms of the work I've done in the past, and it was interesting to hear from Rosanna Pfeiffer at the convention too. To hear that he traveled 500,000 miles, that was astonishing to me. I don't think I'd ever heard that before. And I really enjoyed his slide presentation. That was the first time I've ever seen one. And his visit to Lake Roosevelt there in Idaho and documenting that experience was very impressive.
We have a picture somewhere of Chuck and his VW van that he famously drove all over the West, and God knows how many 500,000 miles. I don't know. He was definitely the geography specialist, the expert on geography in our group, and we are fortunate to have so many of his tapes and other materials. The materials that Chuck collected, I believe, went to Zen, and I'm not sure where they are at this point, but they have been preserved. Obviously, we
Well,
definitely.
I don't think he could have sent everything to Zen because I don't think Zen would. I mean, Chuck had it. Well, I don't know if you were there, Terry, but you saw his back room. I mean, that was that was worse than you see my bookcase there is nothing compared
We we
to
have
Chuck. I mean, he had all these filing cabinets closely put together. There were little aisle walkways in the room. And
Yeah,
Lila, I think,
Zen actually visited Chuck's house after we lost Chuck, and he brought back like 4 boxes of documents out of the filing cabinets. And then those have been sent to me, and they're all scanned. And the goal is to put them in the digital archives of the Zane Grey West Society archives. And so that's the process that we're in right now, is working towards that. But anyway,
oh, but there must
Roseanne,
be more than that. You got to talk to Roseanne.
yeah,
I mean,
we do need to do that at some point.
she must still have kept. I don't know what she did with the house actually. When I met her in Tucson, we had a long talk about various things, but she didn't tell me what. I think she sort of indicated that she hadn't given up the house. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure. We'll have to follow that up either.
Yeah, well,
We've gone.
I wouldn't be surprised being National Park Service. She
Yeah.
she kept a lot.
Okay. Henry, we greatly appreciate your time. Roseanne, can we let you finish it off here? Close it up?
I just wanted to let everybody know. Well, I want to thank Henry for his remarks and comments, especially those that honor Chuck. This award was designed and provided to Chuck announced to Chuck in 2011 at our convention, which was the last one that Chuck was able to attend. And we were so happy to create this award in his honor. And we are so happy that our members are like Henry are doing so much good work in researching and writing about Zane Grey and his works. For one thing, I wanted to mention that Henry is like Chuck in so many ways. Never have I known any researcher to be so generous with his findings as Henry, except perhaps Chuck. Chuck shared everything that he learned about Zane Grey and the locations and the individuals who might have inspired some of his work. Henry is very much like that, and I could make the comment that Chuck trained him well. We are hoping that everyone, Henry has said he's going to join us in Wheeling, West Virginia, for our 2026 convention in October 2026. And we are hoping that all of you are able to attend. It is going to be a very unique convention. It's a brand new location. We've never been there before. And we have intend to have some local experts. We are going to have a tour of some local sites with a local expert telling us about what those sites are related to in terms of Zane Grey's work. Primarily, for those who don't know, Wheeling, West Virginia was the original site of Fort Henry, which is famed for being founded by Zane Grey's great-grandfather. And so we will feature the Frontier Trilogy, sometimes called the Ohio River Trilogy, Betty Zane, Spirit of the Border, and The Last Trail. These are some of my favorite books. And so for those who haven't read them, please do that. And we will have some very interesting materials and presenters to go along with that. Henry, anything else you or Alan or anyone else wants to say, feel free. But other than that, we'll see you in October of 2026. And again, welcome to everyone. And thank you and congratulations to Henry for very well-deserved award.